Raid shouldn't exist. It's a poorly made Payday 2 spin-off that didn't have an audience. It died out years ago when the developers dropped support. But get this, for some inconceivable reason, it's receiving updates again, by another team. An entirely new one who for years were generally unknown. This is a problem for me, which is why I have something very important to do. Hold this for me? Thanks. I should probably explain, so get ready. You're in for the long haul. When Payday 2 released in 2013, it was a big deal for the developers, Overkill Software. Climbing out of the failure of two other studios, a relatively lean team had launched a multi-platform title with retail boxes on shelves, and a sizable PC audience that would carry the game through a decade of future updates. It was built upon solid foundations. Predecessor Payday the Heist scratched a new itch. A heisting fantasy with three other friends, a defensive spin on Left 4 Dead. The considerable difficulty gave it an addictive challenge, and the developers' love of the 90s blockbuster Heat made it a positively inspired game among the quickly sunsetting beige shooter landscape. Though the sequel was light on content, Payday 2 still delivered in almost every aspect. Inspired by the variety of Diablo 2, builds were now customizable, offering extensive replayability. Breaking Bad and The Dark Knight were en vogue, so Payday adopted the same gritty realism. Series composer Simon Vickland produced a suite of bombastic, club-inspired tracks that caught on like wildfire, providing free, truly organic social media marketing. It was the perfect storm. With the current wealth of cooperative shooters in the market, it's hard to explain just how exciting Payday 2 was. This was still the first wave of post-Left 4 Dead shooters, before Helldivers, before Deep Rock Galactic, before Destiny. Payday 2 was polished, multi-platform and fun. It led to a very valid question for Overkill. What now? Rapid expansion. Very rapid. Predictably, the team size increased to roll out updates. Somewhat expectedly, they announced a new game featuring a then popular license, The Walking Dead. Less foreseeably, they used their other name, Starbreeze, to establish a publishing arm, with Psychonauts 2 and System Shock 3 under their wing. Unexpectedly, they expanded into VR, with a licensed John Wick game and a VR mode for Payday 2. Finally, and completely out of left field, they plan to launch their own VR headset, Star VR. This early entry into the industry would be positioned at the premium end of the scale, targeting an FOV of 210 degrees, and a final price tag would end up being $3,200. That's $15 per degree! Meanwhile, a new studio was spun off. Headed in Croatia by Ilija Petrusic, a veteran of Payday the Heist development, new studio Lion Game Lion would initially assist in Payday 2 development. They worked on heists that used new mechanics like fire weapons and a driving system. Following the success of these ventures, a new independent title was announced: Raid World War II. This game would scratch a new itch, a World War II heisting fantasy with three other friends in a defensive spin on, Left 4 Dead. The considerable difficulty would, again, give it an addictive challenge, and the developers' love of Inglourious Bastards made it a positively inspired game, similar to the long-since sunset beige shooter landscape. Though Raid World War II was also light on content in the early days, it under-delivered in almost every aspect. It wasn't very good.
Do you think the playtesters told them it wasn't fun?
I just want to remind you, really drill down the point that this was published by Starbreeze. This wasn't competition for the Payday company, this was the Payday company. Not just that, it launched in 2017 at Payday 2's peak popularity. The story wasn't over, and yet here was Raid, a game in exactly the same style with exactly the same publisher. All of which leads to a very simple question. Why does Raid even exist? So if you want some, can you take some quality Payday Raid screenshots for me. In 2021, I roped in 3 friends to find an answer. Comparisons to Payday 2 are not favourable ones. Raid is profoundly janky, full of glitches and optimization issues.
Yeah,
I've got one
really.
a new one on normal.
That was loud.
In fact, many of these are quite familiar. That's because it runs on Diesel, the same engine as Payday 2. The similarities are striking, to the point that you can recreate glitches from that game. Oh, we should have duped it. We did dupe it. Are you kidding me? With only theming to set it apart, this ultimately feels like a fancy mod for Payday 2. Unfortunately, it's a step down in many areas. Pseudo-realistic visuals just don't work when the fidelity is this poor. It doesn't look like Call of Duty, it looks like Medal of Honor.
Yeah, it looks like what I imagine Company of Heroes looks like when you zoom in.
The brown World War II aesthetic being pushed through this dated engine evokes the early Xbox 360, and this was released in 2017. Around this time, Payday was caught between its original gritty aesthetic and a more campy tone. Raid's answer to this is complete tonal whiplash. Dark, muddy environments, populated with quips left, right and centre. Each member of the Raid gang is a distinct European stereotype. Guy with gas mask, guy with beret, a guy with hat, and guy with nothing. While thick accents can sometimes be humorous, they're never laugh-out-loud funny, and the game is banking on this one joke landing. Don't get me wrong, we had plenty of laughs, but probably not for the intended reasons.
Here comes a hand job, Jerry.
Any cool factor to the premise is undermined by voice lines that are just utterly baffling.
Sterling Silver. It's filled with no. Take a swig.
See this canteen? It's filled with no. Take a swig.
This canteen's filled with no. Take a sip.
Why?
It doesn't make sense. That's the worst thing about it. They managed to rope in John Cleese for this, and it really feels like he just turned up to cash his check. They didn't even incorporate him into the levels, so his contribution is entirely absent after the tutorials.
Ah, you're here. Top. Oh, time to have a go at the hunt and give him a bit of what for, eh? Well, Mrs. White will tell you more.
What?
Very clear that was his first take, and he doesn't give a shit.
Gameplay is a simplified version of, well, you know already. Weapon upgrades are now simply linear, and skill trees are locked on a per-character basis. New to this game are Warcry special abilities, but these are hit and miss, sometimes literally. To change your Warcry would require starting over with a new character. Not exactly great for variety. Stealth has been fleshed out a bit, allowing you to re-enter stealth after killing enemies, but the reward is sometimes just the same objectives, but without enemies to kill. So you're just waiting. Thrilling.
Are we gonna try stealth?
No.
Good.
Pacing is a consistent problem. The game's levels, called raids, often don't hold up to much scrutiny. Incredibly, some start and then stop just a minute or two in.
Go into the bunker, bust, and then leave.
At times, raids show set pieces with small moments of potential. For example, climbing a fortress and parachuting from the roof, or killing guards at a road checkpoint and preparing an ambush. However, it's far more common that they'll just throw you an escort mission, or a turret segment. Raid, in its infinite wisdom, has you manually pick up ammo from fallen enemies. This means that you're constantly stopping to stare at the floor, utterly killing the flow of gameplay. What really takes the mick are dog tags. Each raid, has a bunch of these strewn about, and since they're required for decent XP rewards, each one is another obligation to stop and start. This is easily the worst part of the game, made all the worse by the bundles of tags you find just hanging out together. If the developers can't even be bothered placing these things in different locations, why do you think I'd want to go picking them all up? Then it has the cheek to hand you paltry rewards. You're given gold, which can buy many things for your base, such as a classic toilet, but also, get this, a golden toilet. After 9 hours of gameplay, I had 200 gold. 150 of that was from a first time login bonus. Guess that golden toilet will have to wait.
How are you supposed to get the 500 gold for the golden bomb?
Like, wow. Look how cool you are for putting so many hours into Raid World War II.
Bring the girl home, I've got something to show you.
Boots up, dude.
The game doesn't load the first time and it's like, hold on, I need to verify my files. But oh, trust me, this will be insane.
See, this doesn't usually happen. I can usually get it up every time, but...
Oh, and to turn up the difficulty, you have to play the lower difficulty first. And same for the next one. And the next. Individually. For each level. It's glacial. Who is he shooting at? And while we're here, can we talk about the open map? Yeah, I'm serious, there's an open map. Sort of. Some heists, raids, have you step out of the hub, jump in a car and drive through Berlin. Except it's limited to some repetitive streets, and all of them are practically empty. So, why even have this in the first place? Oh, no, this isn't rhetorical. We will be coming back to this. How do they not know that we're, like, right here, though?
Yeah, we literally led them to our camp. We left a smoking car outside the inn.
They literally put a flare down where we were.
Yeah, they were just about to bomb us at our secret base. Raid's differences ultimately come down to minutiae. War cries, stealth changes, some equipable card modifiers, and of course, theming. Beyond that, well, instead of flashbangs, enemies drop mortar flares that you can put out. Cool. You can cook grenades with a neat hand animation counting it down. A lovely detail. They don't exactly hold up a standalone experience, though. I ask Sterling what he thinks of Raid... I keep calling it Payday. There's a major, fundamental problem with Raid. It has no good reason to exist. Think about it. If Payday 2 was riding high and Raid succeeded, it only would have poached those players. Now, maybe that was the point? While Overkill is busy with their new game, emigrate the audience to a Satellite Studios title? But shifting players to a whole new franchise is a huge risk that evidently didn't pay off. And at that point, wouldn't it be better to just assign LGL to Payday development? Well, maybe Raid wasn't trying to copy Payday 2. Maybe it was trying to copy Payday the Heist. Ha! Okay, where's the next one? There, okay, here. That game hit the market hot off the heels of the Left 4 Dead series, and there's a clear resemblance. The significant difference is this. In Left 4 Dead, you're on the offense, pushing through enemies. In Payday, you're on defense, drilling a vault. Consider that in Left 4 Dead, you recover fallen teammates behind doors found deeper within levels. In Payday, you achieve the same by instead trading a carefully held hostage. Payday took the co-op challenge of Left 4 Dead and flipped the script to great effect. Overkill often cited inspiration from the film Heat, and yeah, that's valid. Composer Simon Viklin described the First World Bank's music as an homage to that film's bank heist. Characters jump up on a table and recite an identical speech to that scene. The following level, Heat Street, is clearly an adaptation of the on-street chase. I just realised the heist is called Heat Street. How did I never see that? Point is, Payday the Heist was a streamlined, inspired experience, with a unique spin on some existing gameplay. Raid tries to be streamlined in the way that Payday the Heist was. It emulates the same linear progression and gradual weapon improvements. There's plenty chatter between teammates, there's gritty visuals, and the same emphasis on brutal difficulty. However, by doing so, Raid imports many of that first Payday's flaws. If skill progression is tied to a character, trying new builds is discouraged. Gradual weapon upgrades don't translate to meaningful gameplay changes. Raid even gains new problems of its own, with poorly paced levels and wonky enemy AI pathing that makes the level of challenge inconsistent and frustrating. By going back in time, the improvements brought to Payday 2 are lost. That makes it all the more important to deliver on the same appeal of the first game. A strong sense of style, bombast, and a punishing but fair difficulty. Did it deliver?
See this canteen? It's filled with no. Take a swig. See this canteen? It's filled with no. Take a swig. That's the shells. Ain't gonna happen to the roof lads.
So, what happened that led us here? In the 2 years between Raid's announcement and launch, publisher Starbreeze had a troubled time. In an effort to further monetize Payday 2, loot box microtransactions were revealed, reviled, and removed. Many of the to-be published games had vague release dates. Star VR was nowhere near launch, and in the middle of all this, their golden goose was struggling. Overkill's The Walking Dead would use a new $6 million engine called Valhalla, one that was, according to some developers, hideously unfinished. It missed its 2016 release window. It missed its 2017 release window. But, aha! A new game by LGL is about to be released, which would give the company a much-needed cash injection. Imagine the pressure LGL must have been under to release a successful game on a short timescale, with a small team limited to the diesel engine. Compromises had to be made. Game director Ilya Petrosic has 2 short videos on his YouTube channel demonstrating the original vision for Raid. The core experience would have been built around a hex grid street layout, with a main target building present on the map. You'd parachute in, then make your way there. Enemy checkpoints would get in your way, but you'd be able to re-enter stealth afterwards. Then, you would tackle the raid. Interestingly, the setup of driving there feels like an evolution of Payday 2's old day system, where entering a new day would act as a soft reset, replenishing health, equipment, and ammo. Just imagine the events on the road affecting the final heist. Maybe you could steal a tank to blow open a wall, or maybe you could disable electricity in the street to make sneaking your way in easier. Afterwards, you'd make a mad dash back to your base, and the loot could pay for upgrades to your centre of operations. You'd be living slap bang in the middle of Berlin instead of staring at menus. Of course, none of this was actually realised, so we're left with the occasional dull mission set in this mostly empty map. Base customization, stealth changes, and the emphasis on driving are all holdovers from this plan. I would guess that Raid's unique ideas were stripped back dramatically to save time. Anything that might be difficult to implement on Diesel was seemingly scrapped. As a result, during the game's beta, the fervent Payday 2 player base justifiably slammed it. I can't help but wonder if they knew at that point that the game was doomed. I mean, one of the pre-order bonuses was a bundle of Payday 2 DLC. Does that show confidence? When Raid released, it did not deliver the expected cash injection. In fact, it performed so poorly that a $30 million share sale was organised to raise funds. The following year, Overkill's The Walking Dead finally released, but in an unfinished state that led to it being swiftly delisted. Starbreeze entered a nosedive, the CEO who spearheaded all this expansion left, and the office was raided for possible insider trading. In a bid to save itself, Starbreeze entered reconstruction, where developers were laid off, their VR dreams were dashed, and their publishing rights were sold off. It's hard to say whether a successful raid could have made a difference here, but you can also see why that was unlikely. In the following months, the player base would all but disappear. After a valiant year of post-launch support, Raid was dropped. There was little mourning. Raid was caught in the midst of Starbreeze's explosive collapse, and when the dust settled, it was forgotten. And you know what? Good. Playing the game was miserable. I don't see any point in it. Maybe it just exists to torture me. I continued with it for hours after my friends gave up, and you couldn't have convinced me to come back. Until July 2022, years later. Quote, fixed an issue causing the game to crash on startup related to new Intel CPUs, raised XP multiplier, increased health. What? Since we got a green light from our publisher, we also wanted to add the long-awaited modding feature. Huh? Will there be more? As of now, we do not know. We are definitely open for more. Ilya. What? In what world does Raid World War II get more updates? Then, at the end of that year, an update drops and it's big. This changelog is hundreds of lines long. Why? From what I could tell, this wasn't even from the original developers, and yet updates were getting pushed straight to Steam. Sure, Ilya was involved, but the other developers were calling themselves the Mug Team. Who was the Mug Team? And why update Raid World War II of all things? I did the only sensible thing, and I moved on with my life. I did not reach out to them, as I had explicitly expressed my disdain for Raid already, and the last thing I'd want to do is pretend to like the game just so I could speak to them.
It's me for engine and tools, Sully for gameplay programming, UI, skill system, lots of other stuff, and Rex for level design, also gameplay programming, bunch of other stuff. Modeling.
Now let's get the hell out of here!
And to clarify, you're all volunteering your development.
Yep.
We all have jobs where we do this on the side.
This is on the... Wow, okay. That's impressive.
Very, very long work hours.
Yeah.
There were a few months earlier this year where I pretty much worked like, including my day job, I worked like 14 hours a day.
Uh-oh. I may have created a problem for myself. In this bank, years ago, this is cleanup duty. It sucks. It's truly awful. I hate it.
Ooh, is that content?
I mean, yeah? What if I want to make a funny video?
Wait a second. You can be funny?
Really?
Maybe if it was a Game Revo cringe compilation.
Actually, not a bad idea.
Let's just get out of here. You see, the Mug Team is committed to fixing Raid. That means a lot of technical changes, like adding asset compression, DirectX 11 support, a slew of bug fixes, and background engine reworks. They're also improving the gameplay, tweaking damage values to address weapon balance, reducing enemy spam, adding new gameplay mechanics, and an entire new skill system, and new levels. They're committed, and really want to give it a new lease of life. Raid continues to exist, even after I just said it really shouldn't, which just makes me look mean-spirited. But how did this even happen? Well, it all started from a humble Payday 2 mod. Over lockdown in 2020, Leon got back into Payday 2 from watching Beecroft livestream the game. This led to him working on a custom character model for the streamer, but there was one small snag. The community model tool barely worked. It was based on proprietary tech that nobody really understood.
And I was like, okay, why doesn't Starbreeze release their tools? So I literally, and this is not a joke, emailed info@starbreeze.com, and surprisingly enough, the at the time head of production responded to me. I was like, oh, those aren't like released or whatever, we might, right?
They released the tools, and the community descended upon them, only to find that models were double the size and in the wrong format.
And that kind of killed that whole project, right? And I was talking a lot to Matt Helzor at the time. He was like, oh, I'm a community moderator for this game called Raid World War II, which failed like in 2017, which I didn't like know about.
Wait, you didn't know about Raid?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Leon was then directed to a resident modding enthusiast, Ilya, as in co-founder of Lion Game Lion, Raid World War II creative director, Ilya. So of course, very serious, formal introductions were required.
Went to Ilya on Discord, just DM'd him, was like, hey, modding.
Ilya found an old LGL developed plugin. It turned out the game would cook models into another format, but the source code for the conversion tool was missing. LGL hadn't worked on Raid in a long time, and Starbreeze didn't have much contact with them. An extensive search followed between Ilya and Leon. Fortunately, the code was recovered from an old server.
He was like, well, you know what, we could just hire you for a week or whatever the process is, and then you can make the tools, because you know a lot about this.
While this was going on, players started reporting issues on certain Intel CPUs, so they addressed that too. And then, Ilya asked Leon about doing even more. This time, quality of life fixes, but to do that, they'd need a Lua expert. Enter Rex.
I am Rex. I mostly handle level-related things, but I also do improvements to the editor and such, game design. I do a bit of the UI, basically everything really.
Rex was a Payday 2 modder, making custom heists for the game, and helping with the mod workshop site. This meant he was well versed in Diesel.
I used to show off some screenshots to Ilya every once in a while. So I think that's why he was pretty keen on including me in this project.
Once again, formal introductions were required.
I think I just DM'd him pretty much on Discord.
Ah, okay, never mind.
At first, it was very secretive that Rex is working on it.
It was secretive. Rex was busy all of a sudden, and he was never busy.
Rex came in to work on Lua code, but over time he gravitated towards level design. They needed another Lua programmer, so he recommended Zella, the final member.
Yeah, I've been modding Payday since like 2016 is when I started, is when I made the Void UI. And then after that, I kind of transitioned over to making maps. We started working on like actually making some kind of Battle Royale mode. Rex and I worked on it a lot of just like new systems, and he was making like maps and I made the code for them. Then he started working on something called Warzone, which was basically like an open world game mode. And then you have like quests and things like that.
And quickly, a few fixes turned into a 3-man team doing full updates. But having learned all this, there was still something I didn't quite understand. Starbreeze published the game. They were done with the game. If the Mug team wanted to push updates directly to Steam, they needed their consent. What exactly did they think of new developers picking up their product?
I went to Ilya and I was like, can we get some sort of direct contact to ask smaller questions? So I'd like, oh, should we use the new Starbreeze logo or the old Starbreeze logo?
They reached out to Starbreeze's publishing division and were surprised by the response.
They thought it's a cool thing. They wanted to support it.
Starbreeze was on board, and not just for answering questions. The Raid soundtrack finally saw an official release, and the game received a permanent price reduction. For the next update, they offered new artwork, and even used their Steam contacts to display the game as newly updated on the store.
You know, that's the advantage of having a publisher, right? They have the contacts in the industry. I didn't expect it, honestly, but they went above and beyond and really wanted to involve themselves with us and support us, and our journey is really cool.
Yeah, they saw something in it that it's possible to bring it back.
The Mug team also prepared another unexpected change. They released the uncensored version of the game in Germany. When Raid World War II first released, Germany still had tight restrictions on the depictions of Nazis, which had affected games for years. Mortar, Commandos behind enemy lines, and most famously, Wolfenstein 3D were all banned under these rules. Many developers opted to censor their German releases. In Raid's case, German players would finish a mission to witness a wacky, over-the-top reaction by a German leader who looked oddly familiar. Wonder who that's meant to be. Just the following year, the courts greatly eased regulations. A number of existing games were unbanned without any changes required, and future releases did not need the same censorship they once faced. But what about a current game in the process of changing?
When we actually went to the USK, like, oh, you know, we have like this game and we want to like update it to uncensor it, right? They're like, well, nobody's ever done this before. Like, most people did re-releases of their game. We are the first people, to my knowledge at least, that like did this as an update. But it does help that I'm German, that like, okay, I can just call them and like talk German with them.
Development comes with its own set of challenges, particularly when it involves an existing project. LGL spent years developing Raid, so to pick up the tools and continue as if nothing changed is easier said than done. When it comes to addressing gameplay issues, finding the right balance is key.
We have a group of core testers. We give it to them and go, hey, this skill is 45%, what do you think? And they say, oh no, this is still too strong, it should be 30%. And then we meet somewhere, right? At the end of the day, what the players think is the most important part of the design.
The big challenge is interpreting exactly what LGL were going for in the first place. Their work was very well archived, but not so well sorted. Everything was grouped by who worked on it. Voice lines were all unsorted. Software required updated licenses.
You start to like go through the folders and it's like, you're literally digging through like an archaeological site, right? What did they do? How did they work? How was stuff connected? How did they make builds? And you start to like understand and kind of grasp the pattern of how stuff happened. It's the modding spirit. You just try whatever to get it to work, and then you eventually get it. And I am always surprised, personally, that is usually quicker than planning it out beforehand and doing it.
And you always have the saying, no plan, or last first contact.
Don't forget, Raid was built with Payday as its foundation, so in many cases the Mug team were picking apart overkill code from a decade ago.
The Payday, the Heist, the developer mask, I don't know if you know about those, but like devs had their own mask if they were in a Steam group.
Right.
And that was still in Raid. That gets saved into your save file in a sequential way where we cannot remove it. So that thing that you don't have the developer mask is just permanently saved into everyone's save file. There were some really weird stuff, like crits, for example, never actually worked because they were looking for enemy headshot multipliers from Payday 2, and those don't exist anymore. On release day, there was an issue with the save files when people like converted their save files to the new version. That issue happened because I fixed a memory leak somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah, because that was it was using some old Grin event handler.
Some of these can be resolved with time and effort, but untangling it all can be a big ask.
It's like, oh yeah, because people, oh, the AI is so we should change the navigation. It's like, okay, you spend like a month implementing a new navigation system, but oh wait, the entire AI is based on how the navigation works. Like you recode the entire AI, you rescript every level to work with that. It's like, yeah, that you can't do that. It's just the tail jab of some changes. Like, oh, you fixed this bug, but that makes 10 others appear. That's one of the disadvantages, you know, if you work on a game that's already released and has like a lot of problems with it. Because after release, you can't make these changes.
Unless you completely replace the whole thing.
Which leads us to arguably the biggest challenge of all, the engine. Diesel was the engine developed by Overkill's predecessor, Grin, for use in their 2001 racing game, Ballistics. Apparently, it still holds a reference to a file from that project. Like any engine, it was tweaked and iterated on over the years, but 16 years of stacking blocks can create a shaky tower. Years of Payday 2 development led fans to question some of the game's limitations, bugs, and quirks. The engine became the source of blame. After all, what can you do with an old racing game engine? It was considered the shackle around the game's legs that held it back as the rest of the industry produced shiny new titles with superior visuals and technical capabilities. Starbreeze's next game would mark a migration to Unreal Engine, so the decision to put Raid on Diesel was heavily criticised at the time. In fact, it would be the final Diesel Engine game, and many of its flaws were attributed to this choice of platform. I had two burning questions for the Mug team, and this was the first one. Why use Diesel?
Because I like it.
Because that's a cool, capable engine. The speed of iteration is, I'd say, unmatched in anything else. Because, you know, in Diesel you work with Lua scripting, right? In the development version of Diesel, you can hot reload that scripting on the spot. You can tweak a damage value, you can tweak balancing, click a button, and 2 seconds later you can try it in the game while you're playing. And that amount of iteration time, we just cannot get anywhere else. It can be literal code of the game.
Oh, really?
I mean, oh, you're working on a menu, or you're working on a new mechanic of sabotaging an MG. Oh, click a button, feature is there.
If you want to make a new mechanic on a map, you can script it up in like an hour or less. You don't even need a programmer for it. So that's why back in the day as well, like they were able to make maps for Payday so quickly because it was just easy to do so.
Let's not forget the heavy crunch here.
Diesel was actually very accomplished for its time. It was an early adopter of PhysX, of deferred rendering, which became a common graphics rendering standard, and of entity component systems, which modern games use to break down large scripts into smaller ones that work in tandem.
For a while it was even pretty competitive with Unreal Engine 3.
In general, the engine-sided codebase can be understood by a single person. Like, it's not like a massive thing like Unreal where it has like 500 bajillion features. I love that, because when you want to optimize performance, you can do it on the lowest level. I can go, oh, this file reading is slow. I can jump in here, because I can understand this code.
Of course, it has downsides, but so does every other engine. Like it's
The lighting.
yeah, the lighting. Like Diesel has been very much undersold its capabilities, and it's really not the engine's fault. A lot of the issues with it are just the way things were programmed. There are also a lot of systems that throughout the years we've been told they're impossible in Diesel, and it turns out they've always been programmed in, just no one bothered to check.
Diesel saw a lot of love under Grin. They had a team of around 10 people committed solely to it, working on features up to their last game, a cancelled RPG called Fortress. Planned as a spin-off to Final Fantasy, the deal fell through when Square Enix declined to make payments to Grin. To quote Grin and Overkill co-founder Bo Anderson, "Oh, what? Oof, interesting choice of language. I'm not reading that." From the ashes of Grin, the founders opened Overkill Software and kicked off Payday the Heist development with a significantly smaller team. The game's first heist was made with an 8-man team. They expanded from there, of course, but they clearly didn't have the resources for a whole new engine team. They began to accrue tech debt. With the first Payday, they only had so much money, so much time, so many people. It just had to work. Unnecessary features like physics support and cloth physics were stripped away or commented out to get the game running.
Originally, Diesel was developed in a way where multi-projects on the same base were allowed. They have basically two halves of it. You have the project and you have the core. And core was supposed to be like, all the default libraries that are shared between every game. For Payday the Heist, they just started adding a bunch of game-specific stuff into core, and now it's just a big mess of a project calling core when you were never supposed to be doing that.
Plenty of features from Fortress remained hidden away, and the time gap meant that many Overkill and Starbreeze developers had no idea they existed. They didn't have a year to dedicate to digging through the codebase, because they had games to work on.
With Payday 2, that attitude continued, right? Where it's like, yeah, we won't use this anymore, next game will be on Unreal. And if you do that for like 10 years, then you get a folder of 20 other folders, of which 5 are needed, and the others are just like stuff that's left over. It's like a treasure trove, you dig through the engine code base and go like, what is this? When I told them, the engine has leg IK or something, they were like, what? No, wait, oh, what?
And lip syncing and
lip syncing as well. Like, oh, what? A lip syncing system like in the source engine? What? That's just programmed in and not used by anything?
Yep, there's water physics, water buoyancy, cloth physics.
Yep.
A lot of things.
This kind of thing where the knowledge just got lost over time because there's no real documentation. It is just, it got a bad rap from a lot of the team because a lot of the team was like, well, Diesel can't do this, Diesel can't do that.
So do you think that's what extended to the player sentiment?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There's definitely a bad rap, and especially like the racing thing is very frustrating because Diesel only had shooters made on it since 2006. It had 2 car games, and ever since after that was only shooters.
I never say something so naive.
If you want like the definitive proof of like how Diesel could have been a good engine, so after Grin dissolved, a lot of people who worked on Diesel for Grin basically forked Diesel, turned it into the Bitsquid engine. And later, Autodesk bought it and turned it into the Stingray engine. And right now, Helldivers 2 and Darktide run on the Stingray engine. So those games are technically running on Diesel.
On a distant relative of Diesel, yeah.
And now Fat Shark has a lot of people working for them who used to work on Diesel for Grin.
I wonder now how many people there are who still, are actively working in the environment and still have that knowledge and the skills.
We are the last bastion of the Diesel engine.
There is still one person at there right now who's Martin Warren, I think, right?
Martin,
he's been there since the very beginning. So he worked on Diesel since Ballistics.
Oh, wow.
I don't know him, unfortunately, but I would love to meet him one day.
But of course, there's another developer still occasionally dabbling in Diesel, Ilya.
Ilya is a fucking cool person. Like, he loves modding above, like, anything else.
Yeah, he was a modder as well, so he knows that.
Oh, really?
What a yeah.
Yeah, he got into game dev from making like GTA 3 mods or something.
Wow.
Yeah, I think GTA and Half-Life. Yeah, he had a Half-Life mod has been working on for like I think multiple years now.
Yeah.
And it was like mostly done.
Yep.
So I hope he does go back to it one day because it was pretty good.
For us, it's all self-taught, right? Like you just learn it by looking at it, by trying out different things.
There's a big downside of all these like modern engines that are just giving you everything on a silver platter. No one learns these things anymore, and there's no documentation on how to do these things. Because if everyone learns, just uses Unreal, in the future, who will develop Unreal, right?
Right, like there needs to be a next generation of the engine programmers, of the people who want to learn the tech behind the game.
Like, you don't want that type of game developer to die out, because I think those people who started with modding, I think those people were always more creative and had better problem-solving skills than people who learned, like got taught how to do it.
If anything, Raid is good evidence of this. This is a team who found their footing by making Payday 2 mods. A lot of that work found its way into Raid.
Yeah, I made Mentling, and I basically based off the things I made for Warzone. So there's a lot of knowledge we gained from those that we actually ended up using in Raid eventually.
Yeah, one of the things I added was the Betty mines, which actually has a fun story behind it. So the way the mines work is when you throw them and then they settle down, like upwards, the right way. A lot of that code was stolen from my old project. That code was basically drones, how they stay upright. So the little Betty mines are just drone code that I did.
Raid is being revived using Diesel's modding legacy.
We're trying to get the engine to only use stuff that is like open source free, doesn't have like much licensing attached to it, right?
And I do want to, yeah, very important for me personally to keep that. So like there's like a lot of things we were thinking about, like what we could upgrade in the game. But for me, that's always the question comes up, like, okay, but would this hinder modders? Is this something modders could do? Because if there's like, okay, this cool system, but modders cannot do it because it's like proprietary or whatever, then I'm gonna be against it, right? I don't want to add anything that makes modding just less possible. We do have plans of like developing like a full tool chain for development for Diesel.
Yeah, like this can get more people into modding. If more people can try out development tools and work on a game. Who knows, maybe someone makes a raid map one day and that gets them hired in a game studio.
Yeah, like, so it's like perpetuating the cycle, right? Yeah, so the editor has a file as like basically a changelog that they just edited that goes back to, I think, like 2005 or 6. All the Grin employees, they were editing it and they just added the changelog. So when I started like updating the editor, I also started to write stuff in it. And I wrote like a little thing. It's like, hey, we uncovered it like 10 years later. Maybe 10 years from now, someone else will uncover this as well.
That's cool. That's like a we were here sort of thing. Diesel seems like a wild beast, but honestly, I can see how it can be tamed to achieve some great results. I think I've been convinced. So that answers my first burning question. But there's still another one. Why work on Raid? I was worried about this one since I know they've spent years updating the game and I, hated it. There's a reason I broke back in here. I'm deleting evidence. What if they found out what I truly think? I got my foot in the door here under the unspoken pretense that I like the game. How do you even go about asking this question without coming across as a massive dickhead? I have to admit, when I played the game a few years after it came out, but prior to these updates, just to see what it was about. At the time, I was thinking of making a video and putting on YouTube about it, and it had problems.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Oh, maybe I misheard.
I was the same as everyone else when it came out. It's like I was very heavy into Payday, and it's like, okay, this is just Payday but less.
Oh, okay. Zella 2. Maybe Rex disagrees?
Yeah, my initial response to Raid as a game was, it was like really bad as well. I hated the game. And then after all these years, eventually I came back to it. So it is good to see things can work out. I really do think the game just didn't get to be finished. And now we get to finally finish it.
Well, that's curious. What am I even destroying evidence for?
The development has went through a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, a lot of just make it work.
Time crunches.
Lion Game Lion was a relatively fresh studio out of Croatia who had just scaled up to do a full multi-platform title. Croatia, compared to more established game industry hubs like the US, didn't have a lot of collective game experience to hire from. So many developers were experienced programmers, but not always experienced game programmers. That meant trying things out for the first time, only to discover that they weren't being given the time to round out their features.
We do that a lot. We do a lot of jank stuff and then go, well, let's do it properly this time now. But since we're not on any hard deadlines, we just keep working on it. We weren't on hard deadlines, at least.
Yeah, now
I was
we
about
have.
to say, now it's different.
Yeah. So we'll see what jank we end up getting up to.
I've got a bit of feedback, actually. Can you make this cart faster, please?
We
The
know.
problem is this one specifically, no. This map was made in such a hurry that all the timers are manually hard-coded to this speed. And this map isn't even localized on one language yet.
Though it does feel like LGL may have bitten off more than they can chew.
So the idea for Raid is to have like a lot of these unique objectives, because instead of just having a bunch of timers, having like these more in-depth levels with a bunch of mechanics, and it just didn't really end up happening.
Okay, so there was a design doc for a raid that you would play. You would be on a plane, then parachute off the plane onto a flying blimp to assassinate an officer, to then jump off of the flying blimp down with another parachute onto a moving train. Yeah. That is as convoluted as it sounds. I personally wish that they just focused more on making those cool maps instead of spending all the time on the open world that ended up not becoming anything. Because they clearly are very good at making some cool maps. Because, you know, the skill system in Raid, that was added very late, the old skill system. That was just added as a, oh shit, we need a skill system, we have 3 months. And then that's why that's not what they envisioned. That's not what they wanted.
That sounds weirdly familiar. Yeah, is it any wonder that Starbreeze, the company that funded Raid, would fall into similar pitfalls years later with Payday 3? Don't answer that, I'll get to it sometime in the future, hopefully. And it seems like Raid had quite a lot of pressure on it to perform well.
Yes, like what Starbreeze tried to do at the time is very, very different from what current Starbreeze publishing is. That was still like under Bo, and we all know Bo, and you know what kind of person he is and how he acts, and I'll just leave it at that. And
they really wanted Raid to basically replace Payday.
Yeah, it was very much handled wrong in my opinion, right? LGL made some mistakes as well.
This clash of ambitions between the two led to the game's tone changing, which explains how the gritty, grayscale announcement trailer could turn into a grab bag of some cool moments and cringy quips to undermine them.
But in hindsight, the wacky tone was... For us, it was a blessing in disguise, because it was a lot easier to, you know, design all these things, like the skills and everything. Because if it was completely grounded, then we couldn't just like come up with levels. Because right now you can kind of bend reality a little bit.
Among the unusual decisions was the choice to have Raid and Payday 2 share engine updates and fixes. LGL attempted some engine upgrades, even providing a 64-bit version for Payday's development version. However, the grand ambition of two teams coordinating and merging work together never panned out. It was a tall ask, especially for a fresh team under tight deadlines.
It's like, individually they couldn't have killed the game in its entirety, but like all of these things happening at once, the marketing not being great, publishing wanting different things for the game like having deadlines shifted.
And also the game came out at the time when Payday was the most popular it's ever been.
That too, yeah.
So, Raid launches to negative critical and fan reception, and as we know, things don't pan out well for LGL. or even Starbreeze for that matter.
It's a miracle that the game even came out, honestly. And it was very rough, like it really was. That's what I've been telling to Leo as well, like now with the update that people are liking it, it does show that there always was something there, right? There was always the potential there to make it something that people liked. You know, they did make 19 updates in like 8 months, which is pretty impressive. So they did try. They just, resources were dwindling as well.
Because financially, it is not worth to recover Raid if you have like not a team like ours where it's like, oh yeah, we'll just do this.
Raid was truly sent out to die. Now I'm starting to feel bad for LGL. Oh my god, my old Steam review. What if they see that? There. Okay. Not even entertaining as a what went wrong type game. The low budget and unmet potential aren't the issue. The game's greatest fault is that it reeks of low effort. Yikes. That's a bad look. So you've heard my embarrassing perspective on the game from back then, but since then I've discovered this awful trait called empathy. What do I think now? Well, the good news is that the updates have really made a difference, especially on a technical level. Menus feel slicker, and the game is less buggy across the board, though not entirely bug-free. Oh, did my game just crash? Game feel is night and day. Ammo pickups are automatic, and level rewards are more generous. Since you no longer need to skitter across the ground like a sanderling, the flow of gameplay is far smoother. Rebalancing has weapons feeling more effective than ever, and the draining sense that you were stacked against a tidal wave of enemies has been gracefully eased. It's less a battle of attrition and more an arcadey shooter now. Perhaps the biggest success story is the new skill system, which featured in a major update from the team. That's a cool one. Some of these are quite good. Like, I can see synergies. With a modular pick-your-skill approach, Raid's been given the variety of Payday 2, without the sunk cost fallacy of launch day Raid. The new war cries are infinitely better and are no longer tied to characters, and they finally let you save skill loadout, which is a massive quality of life addition. There is a reason to keep playing now. I brought my friends back in to try it again, and we all agreed that this has been a massive step up. The raids in Raid were always a sore spot for me. I threw together a tier list where I unfortunately discovered that I don't really care for most of them. Many have structural issues, forcing you to wait for far too long before anything exciting happens. If anything exciting happens at all. There's so many. Come on. So when I heard there was going to be new ones, well, I had to give them a look. Gold Diggers is decent. Small map, simple in scope, but moving side to side on the train car gives enough cover, and trying to keep the train stopped is a fun framing device. However, it's very basic in premise, and over before you know it. Full Stop is the full fat raid that they've been working towards. It's got a storyline, achievements, and a larger map. It's quite good. It mixes Raid's two main level structures, exploring a larger map and breaching a main facility. The first part, like many open map segments of Raid, can feel a bit aimless. Sure, you're driving around for an explicit purpose this time, but the back and forth via the map's central spoke feels a bit too much like you're retreading steps. It all picks up in the second half though. I'd say the highlight is when you breach the main building, take cover from enemy machine guns, and once you enter the main office, you realise you can take those guns yourself to turn back on the enemy. Gives this phase a nice division of roles too, and the target officer having a backup plan to fight on the roof is a great variation. The raid really shines in the details. The failed first attempt at breaching the wall sets up the premise well. The planes that actually attack you are appreciated. It doesn't quite hit the cinematic peak of my favourite raid, Odin's Fall, where you parachute off a tower, but I enjoyed Full Stop far more than most other levels in the game. Shortly after the big Update 22 last year, which overhauled the game's skill trees, I asked the Mug team about how the reception was. Thankfully, it's been incredibly positive.
There's like a lot of people who just came like, oh, I always liked this game, and finally I can play it again. It's like, we don't know where all that people came from. We never thought that Gate had this much of like an underground community.
And I imagine you're getting a lot more feedback now than you were.
But it's, I would say, getting too much feedback.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
But slowly and hopefully we'll get most of the bigger issues then. Yeah, we're pretty lucky right now with that people are actually patient with that.
Yeah.
And also, like, you still have to start working on new things, because if you just always fix bugs, you're gonna be fixing bugs for the end of your life. So
Yeah. So what about Starbreeze? They took a chance on the Mug team. Did they think it paid off?
yeah, they seem to be quite happy. You know, they were also on holidays right now, so we don't know their exact opinion on it. But for the little thing we saw, they are happy about it, and they are interested in how it moves forward.
Zelly is very diplomatic. Love it. Good response.
Are you hoping to be able to work on Raid full time, given the opportunity?
If we have the opportunity, absolutely, yes.
Yes, there's the dream of like, we can work on this game, we can not get rich off of it, but like live, and we can work on a game all day. Like what's not to love, right?
It would be nice if I could just work on it and then still have time to do anything else, because I don't even have time to like play games much anymore at all. Like, if I do this today, then the update is gonna release later, which means I have to do this even more, right? So it's like the age-old game developer crunch starts, and it's fine for a while, but after a while you really just like, it's not healthy to do that long term. Yeah, I had a, like, not just from Raid, as I'm working on maps, I did have like a lot of health issues coming up because of it. And it's well, you can only play with your luck for so long, right?
The level of dedication, I think, is really interesting.
It's hard to understand, right? Like, it's hard to look at this and go like, yeah, but what game do you have? Like, why would you ever do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to think about why, but I always think, well, if I didn't, I'd just be doing more Payday maps or something on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So
it's
I may as well.
Before this, I was actually working with a crew on a Minecraft server, developing a Minecraft server with like custom plugins and lots of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what killed that project for me was just, there was no recognition of it, right? Like, you released it, you tried some marketing, you tried saying that, yeah, they have like 10 players, whatever, and then those die off like 2 days later, and like, eh.
Yeah, I think I had something similar with my work, my custom maps and stuff for Payday. I just work on something and show a little bit of it, and I get enough gratification that I just think, well, that's pretty much all I need. I can go do something else now.
And here we have a project that we're working on, and people go, wow, that's cool what you're doing. We like that. We like to play it. They give feedback. They talk to you. And,
even if it's like feedback, like, why are you doing this, is funny to us as well.
Like, every update we release, every teaser we drop, everything we work on. We do a live stream and we get like 70 people watching us going, oh, that's cool. That's great. That's enough for me.
So why does Raid exist? What does its existence mean? Well, Raid was a misfire, the result of misguided decisions between Starbreeze and Line Game Line, two groups that then found financial troubles, downsized, rehired, and changed so radically that you could argue they're not even the same groups anymore. Back then, I'd say Raid didn't have a clear purpose, especially not with Payday 2 riding high. But the fact that LGL remains to this day, and the creative director Ilya is himself an enthusiastic modder, and the Mug developers were willing to take up the mantle, and Starbreeze were willing to put trust in the team and give them their support, the stars truly aligned for a game that only ever had the slimmest of chances. The Mug team, Leon, Zelly, and Rex, took their opportunity when it came, and I'd say they've made a much more exciting Raid. It's a decent game that I can actually recommend, especially now at a cheaper price, such that it's easier to pick up for a spin. Sure, there's still work to be done, the team has acknowledged as much, but the difference now is that I believe in Raid, which I didn't think was possible. This game, living on in a form that I would have any faith in, should not exist. In a world where Starbreeze has all but left behind Diesel in Payday 2, Raid, somehow, is a living legacy. It's the final Diesel game, being made by the final Diesel team, 20 plus years after its inception. The Mug team are building on the work of LGL in 2017, of Overkill Software in 2011, of Grin in 2001. They've also maintained the modding spirit at the heart of these development studios. Ilya, as a modder himself, ushered in this new phase of Raid. That turned it into a plucky upstart, cobbled together by a promising small team, out of the ruins of an engine once abandoned by its previous developers. Which is exactly the circumstances that led to Payday the Heist in 2011. And as we know, that story is still ongoing. And what do you know, just a year later, the Mug team, now renamed as Sidetrack Games, were granted the keys to Payday 2. The devs finally get the chance to do this as a job. And well, considering what they achieved only in their spare time, I think Payday 2, as well as Raid and the Diesel engine, have a bright future ahead. Oh, and by the way, Sidetrack, thanks for ruining the thoughtful, open-ended finale to my video. Real considerate. You know, there's really no point in me deleting evidence, is there? Why did I even risk my neck for this? I'm off home. Wait a second. Huh.
Working on games in general is just the most fun thing I think I ever did. Like, this is just... That's why we said we wish this can be a full-time gig at some point, right? Like, this is just the coolest thing. You can work on games, people can tell you they like what you do. And all because a Croatian man believed in us and was like, oh, modding is cool. And some people replied to an email during COVID. It's a very, like, it's so crazy to think back on this and go like, okay, this random, like, nudge of this piece of snow made the snowball happen.